Welcome to SASS, a podcast where science meets spirituality with a little bit of sass, your guide to awakening with a twist. I'm Katie Kowaleski, your host, and I look forward to helping you on your awakening journey. I've been a marriage and family therapist for almost 11 years and have been specializing in holistic self-care tools for the last 5. I've found that healing and growth are optimized when mind, body, and spirit tools are combined with cognitive behavior and solution-focused therapeutic techniques, creating sustainable change that can be easy and fun. All of our podcasts discuss science and spirituality and really talk about tools and topics that are imperative to the human awakening experience. We look forward to meeting you wherever you are, and welcome to SASS. So I'm really excited about today's interview because I have here with me one of my favorite people, and he's had a part of my heart since he knocked me down when I was 12, and that's literal. So we'll get into that story in a minute, but I want to welcome Ari. Welcome.
Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah,
It's an absolute pleasure to be here, an honor. I am very excited.
Nice. Yeah. So Ari and I have known each other for
25 years.
25 years.
Yeah, I did that math last night.
Oosh, long time. And we met in the 7th grade during a football game, and we were playing like touch football behind the stadium, and I was like, had to be one of the guys, so I'm out there playing, and I caught this ball, and I look up, and this redhead's barreling towards me, and I mean, I was under the impression that we were playing like touch football, and he just like picks me up, whoop, slams me down, sitting there on top of me and says, hey, I'm Ari. I'm like, all right, and then we were friends ever since.
Yeah, and I'm like 5'9", 150 pounds, and at that point I was like 5'9", 170 pounds at 13, so...
Yeah, that was like no gentle tackle.
Yeah, I was the biggest kid that came over from Park Maitland or anywhere else at that point.
That's an impression.
It was serious. I'll never forget that.
No.
I will always remember that.
Did you tackle anybody else that game, or was it just...
Probably just you.
You're like, I like to make an astounding first impression, so
yeah, exactly.
I'll lay you out.
Right. I'll show everybody what this is about. Yeah. Nice.
And that's how we met, and then we've been friends since then, and went through high school together, and stayed in touch through college, and Ari has a really interesting journey, and he's had a really interesting journey of awakening and self-discovery, which is obviously what the podcast topics are always about, talking about people's journey into coming into themselves and remembering who they are. And so today we're really just going to kind of talk about that and see where the conversation goes and how it flows, but we want to hear about your journey of awakening.
Wow. Okay, well... My journey of being asleep began when I was probably 14 or 15. I started drinking and doing drugs. And at some point when I was 21, I had an opportunity to play baseball that went awry with shoulder issues. And I was in a little town in North Carolina, and I just kind of found drugs and more alcohol, and couldn't play ball, which is what I was used to doing for so long, so I needed something to do, and that's what I did. I realized I was in a poor situation, and after 10 months or one full year being there, in North Carolina, I decided I got to go back home and do something different, and moved home, and my parents divorced. And at that point, it was time to lash out even more with the new tools that I had found in North Carolina. I was going to put those tools to use and see what I could, what kind of trouble I could start essentially. So, the parents divorcing and alcohol and drugs and arrests piled up for the next 10 years. I started a career in plumbing when I was 22 or 3. And by the time I was 28, I was arrested in a company vehicle for having some weed on me. And, that was 2013, and things were pretty bad at that point.
Yeah.
Pretty bad. And I kind of skipped over a whole part of my wife entering the situation. Meredith, a piece of my life since I'm 16, piece of Katie's life as well. We dated in high school and separated in college, but life brought us back together when we were 23 or 4, and it was wonderful for a few years, and then I started to become unfaithful, and we kind of partied together for a long time, and Meredith decided that she was not about that life anymore, and didn't want me to be about it either, but I was stubborn and continued to use and to drink and make poor decisions and be unfaithful to her as well for many times over 8 or 9 years. So a lot of guilt and shame and just wishing I could undo things that, terrible decisions I made when I was under the influence of drugs or alcohol or both. And in 2014, after spending a lot of time with Katie, Meredith and I were I was like any good alcoholic addict. I was trying to figure out how to prolong my career.
Mm-hmm.
We decided that, maybe I would wear a watch and I would have 1 drink an hour. And that worked for a little while. And I just remember struggling so hard with that, but being glad that I would figured out a way to continue to drink. So it was like, okay, cool. I'll do this and, replace one thing with another. But got to the point where I literally couldn't look at myself in the mirror anymore. I had taken so many shame showers. I just still had all the shame. I couldn't wash it all off, and I just couldn't live with myself anymore. I didn't trust myself. I was scared of myself. I would tell myself over and over and over that when given an opportunity to fuck up, I wouldn't, but I would. When it all came down to it, that's what would happen. So I didn't trust myself. I was totally scared about, given any freedom, what I might do with that freedom. So I made a choice to stop drinking, and my wife pretty much gave me a choice there that you can either live that life or you can continue to have a relationship with me, and that choice was very easy.
The initial choice.
The initial choice was very easy.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Which made going on 7 years of sobriety, or going on 6 years of sobriety, it made the beginning of the journey easy. The decision was easy. The toughest thing I ever have done is come clean. Mm-hmm. With all of my wrongdoings. That was much harder than stopping using for me, because I felt like I had something to work for. I had a reason to stop that I didn't feel like I had in the past. I just wanted to meet resistance with resistance and go against the grain and do what I wanted to do selfishly. So 2014, November 14th, 2014 was the last drink I took. And the last time I had a drink, and it was the beginning of my awakening. But then there was still 3 or 4 years of having to adjust to a new way of life without drugs and alcohol. Gave me more time to excel at work and excel in my relationship, and
because it was a lot of unpacking, right? So she hadn't been aware. She was aware of like the drug and alcohol use, but hadn't been aware of the infidelity. And so it all came out at the same time.
It all came out at the same time, for sure.
So you were learning how to face yourself, admit what you'd done, deal with like her reaction to it, and were giving up all of like the vices and ways that you had previously coped or not coped before that.
I convinced myself that when I told her, she was going to leave me. So I was fully prepared when I told her for her to pack her shit or have me pack my shit. Mm-hmm. and go. So it was very encouraging when that did not occur. but it was unpacking so much stuff at once. And it was, it brought back it brought a lot of shame to her as well, humiliation. There were a lot of times I'd be, doing drugs behind her back that 80% of wherever we were, people were doing them with me, and, she was not in on it. So when she found this out, there was a lot of resentment towards the people that were involved with this as well for years and years, that we had all been very close, and, it put a massive strain on many things, and I felt solely responsible, as I needed no guidance or help. I was the help. People were following me. I wasn't following anyone around. I was the one that was creating all of the disaster. So it was a lot for me to come to terms with, but it literally took, me coming to terms and saying, okay, she's gonna leave me after I tell her this, but I have to get this off of my chest, because if I don't, I'm not going to be able to move forward in any sort of healthy fashion.
Right. What is your relationship to the idea of like crime and punishment? So often we have ideas like from childhood about like right and wrong and what happens when we do right and do wrong, or admit that we've done wrong, and what should come next. And I'm just curious about how, if you could convince yourself that she would leave you and you were ready to accept that, and then she didn't, which was encouraging to you. But I'm wondering, in your mind at that point, what you decided or what you knew about dynamics moving forward. So is it like, I've done so wrong and I've been given a huge gift here that she's willing to stay with me? What parts of yourself do you think you decided to kind of disconnect from? So you were always somebody who was super outspoken and like gave your opinion, spoke your mind, very steadfast in it. And I feel like often when whatever we've done, if it's brought guilt or shame to ourselves or our partner, it degrades us in a way where we put ourselves as being less than. And so I'm just wondering if in that moment, when you'd convince yourself she was going to leave you and then she decided not to, if it was a moment that you gave like some of that soul power away, thinking like, I can accept whatever comes after this because I'm just lucky to still be here.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I'm the kind of person that if I wrong somebody, I want to right it. I feel bad about it, whether it's, some small slight that is, minuscule in comparison to 8 years of adultery. I want to right wrongs, and I was given an opportunity to right many wrongs, and I took that as my main objective, was at all cost. You've been given this opportunity again, so make the most of it. Right all those wrongs if you can, by given this opportunity again to try and make this relationship work.
Yeah. So it could be too, maybe that if you have an idea that I've done something wrong, I deserve to feel bad. Did you believe that you deserved to feel bad? Did you believe that you would deserve to feel however you feel, or absorb whatever was coming your way?
Absolutely.
For an infinite amount of time.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because you've done so wrong.
Yeah, the idea of, I look at it like I did sobriety. Like when I first was sober, I was like, holy shit, I'm gonna have to do this the rest of my life. Mm-hmm. And it was like the same kind of thought, with so much wrong and so much pain inside. I felt I couldn't get away from it. There's nothing that I can do. Like I felt like I deserved to feel the way I felt. Just beat down, and you made so many mistakes, so now you just got to take it on the chin, whatever that looks like, in order to keep this relationship going in the right direction. And I also had to build trust back with myself that I wasn't going to continue to make these decisions. And removing, drugs and alcohol from the situation, from the equation, made it a whole hell of a lot easier. And I still smoke weed every fucking day, but I've never smoked weed and wanted to make a ton of terrible decisions. And it's something that is, I smoke, I have a card and smoke legal marijuana, and it keeps me where I need to be mentally in order not to lash out and make awful decisions.
Yeah, didn't they used to call weed the gateway drug? But I actually think it's probably like alcohol and cocaine and all the other things.
It's alcohol. Alcohol is the gateway drug.
Yeah, it opens the door to go do...
And that was with... I thought, for the longest time, I thought I was a drug addict. I thought I was a drug addict first. I'm an alcoholic first. There's a drug addict when the drinks are flowing.
Yeah.
So, and again, that was... I tried everything I could to continue to drink for as long as possible. So I was able to cut the drugs out a year before the alcohol. And I just drank for a year, but that's as long as it took before I realized, okay, this is different than I thought it was.
And so in that recovery, did you find that your sobriety or making those choices and coming to those conclusions about like alcohol being a gateway to making poor decisions? I think a lot of people function, even on a day-to-day basis, drinking and are doing that on some level. And the bad decisions or the quote-unquote bad decisions don't have to be so impactful that they could be like, I'm just not happy in what I do every day, or I'm not happy with my partner or whatever.
Yeah.
And it allows them that invitation to just kind of numb out from it. Did you find when you started to become sober, how did that influence or impact the friendships and relationships around you? Do you think anybody, that it might have caused any sort of questions in anyone else's mind about their own drinking or their own drug use? Or
I think immediately the impact was, people didn't get it at all, because I was this fucking party maniac for so many years that when it was over with, it was like people were shocked. They were just in straight shock for the longest time. And over the first couple, 2 to 3 years, I think, I started to feel like sobriety was trending, as I had, a handful of people to say, come to me and say, hey, I'd really like to stop drinking, people at work, people in my personal life. And, they would confide in me over that, and that made me feel good. But, I've always considered myself a trendsetter. Like I said before, I was leading the charge. I follow no one. So
literally charging people.
Literally, yeah. So I kind of looked at it as, here's another example. Like I had a huge beard before. Having huge beards was cool. But that was my deal, And so I looked at it as, I was proud. I was very proud. But I think it might have stirred up some things within the first couple of years. But since then, all of those things have kind of gone away. I mean, people fall back into the same old traps that they're used to, and they're not actively trying to make changes for the better in their life. So I will say one person, Derek Jones, who you know as well, Katie, one person did follow my plight outside of my wife as well. Meredith said, she was willing to stop it all for me as well, because she knew, how big that would be for me to have that support. So that was right there with me. Meredith made the decision. She hasn't had a drink since. And Derek Jones, our buddy, he was way gone there for a while, decided in 2015, like 6 months after I got sober, that it was time for him to get sober, and he hasn't had a drink since. So, so I can say probably 30% of people that came to me with wanting to make a change, to do something, 3 of 10, that's not too bad.
That's amazing.
You're a Hall of Famer in baseball at 3 out of 10.
Yeah, you're a Hall of Famer in the sobriety help too. I think that's great. And on the other side of that, do you feel like your choices intimidated anyone else, or kind of changed the dynamic of friendships or interactions that you had?
Oh, it absolutely has. I mean, I still have, there were about 10 of us in high school that we referred to as the family, and Katie knows them all very well, but only 4 of them do I continue to have a relationship at this point. So 40% of the people that I was really close to in high school, that we all felt like we had this bond that was very special, Our parents always told us that it was a special bond, that it was unlike, high school friendships that they had. So, it was very special. Groups of people went to college together, and are living successful lives. After that, but I just, they're not my kind of people anymore. I don't identify with them. They don't identify with me. It's like they don't eat, because like I still eat dinner and shit, and no one calls and wants to have dinner, or like
strangest thing happened. I got sober and people stopped eating dinner.
Yeah, it's amazing. It's like
they don't eat.
Yeah, like, do you want to go out and have drinks? It's like, no, I don't fucking drink. But do you want to go have like some bread and like a salad? Like, holy shit. Maybe you could drink more if you had bread and salad before you had drinks. Yeah. But it's like, even like playing golf. You play golf with all these guys, and it's like, hey, do you want to go play golf? Sure. You go play golf, and then 3 out of the 4 guys there are blacked out by the 15th hole, and I haven't been having fun since hole 6. So it's like, why do I want to put myself through this? Yeah. I mean, what was really alarming was that everything revolves around alcohol in the majority of these people's lives, and it's and I say these people, I mean my father, my mother, my father, my mother-in-law, same thing. It's crazy. The stranglehold that alcohol has on human beings is scary.
Yeah. People who don't even identify as having an issue with it can often be under that stranglehold and have no awareness or don't want to look at it.
Yeah, they don't want to recognize it.
That's the ultimate test though, right? Can we go play golf and not drink?
Yeah, I can.
We're gonna see who shows up for that, or like we're gonna go to a restaurant that doesn't serve alcohol and see who wants to come to dinner, and
right. Right.
Was it hard to decipher like if people didn't want to go to dinner or were not gonna play golf if it didn't involve alcohol? Was it clearly just about them and their own issues with alcohol, or did it hurt your feelings?
Absolutely. It was very disappointing to me, as I felt for a long time, 20 years, that I was very close to some of these guys, and when the phone stopped ringing, it was like they didn't even know what to say to me anymore, because alcohol wasn't in my life. It's a tough thing to associate with. As I came clean to Meredith with all my wrongdoings and got sober, I had explanations to give to other people in my lives that were, ancillary affected in certain situations throughout my partying history. So I felt like I had to come to terms with them on things, and in opening up to them, it was very awkward. It was all received very awkwardly. There was, maybe Ben Walker was the one guy that kind of took it in stride.
Ben takes everything in stride.
I know, it's fucking amazing. But was happy for me, really was proud that I had decided to do better for myself. And not to say these other guys weren't proud, but they don't know how to communicate that. It makes them so uncomfortable that, maybe it is them seeing the shit in their own eyes, and it just makes them freak so much inside that they don't have anything to say, literally. Yeah. And it just makes for awkward conversation. But, I don't get asked to do shit anymore. And my life is better now because of that. This life is so much easier to live. So much better.
I would like to go to dinner with you, eat bread and salad, and play golf.
Oh my God, that sounds great.
Maybe all the same day.
Yeah, that sounds like a great day. We can definitely do that.
Yeah, I can imagine. And I think, everybody, I think when they're going through their own awakening journey, comes to that place where they're looking around at people, places, and things, or even relationships that they thought would last forever, and those things fall away or they don't resonate. And I think with your journey, it was like a higher octane impact, because so many things happened to start that for you. Like there was big catalysts there. Other people were like engaging in that partying with you, and like to have you stop and be like, this is a huge issue, while they're continuing to do some of the same behaviors, can be intimidating, and they're not ready to look in the mirror. And I think that's part of that awakening journey. So a couple years into that, I think like 2017, and we'd been in contact off and on. And I think, you and Meredith went into kind of like a hibernation kind of mode at that point, and we're trying
we did for years. I mean, from 2015, 16, 17.
Yeah.
Literally, we just packed it in and stayed home and worked on ourselves, and we're in therapy together and separately, and we're really trying to build a base of, healthy foundations moving forward. But a lot of it at that point was still reliving trauma and trying to work through it, in a therapeutic environment.
Yeah.
Which included, myself, Meredith, my mother, Meredith's mother. So there were a lot of different steps at the beginning to try and build a foundation for success, which I think is super important. It was like all this damage hadn't occurred overnight, and we weren't going to make it right overnight. Mm-hmm. So, a strong foundation has to happen first before we take care of a bunch of other things. So we were literally laying a foundation essentially for 3 years. We had lots of good things coming up as well. We were having our two most successful years with the business, 2016 and 17 were super successful. So was 2018. But we had a lot of different opportunities coming up. There were advancements that we were making in our personal lives and in our professional lives that I know would not have been possible if we were, if either I was still using and Meredith was trying to get me to stop, or God forbid if we were both still running amok out there. There's no way that the opportunities that we were given would have come across.
Yeah. And watching that is interesting too, because I think a lot of people, I always think of you guys as kind of the poster child of like awakening and kind of making it through the fire, because I don't know any other couples who have been through the kind of intensity and the things that you guys have been through and committed to working through it and really did that and like stayed in that space. So having like 3 straight years of really working through that and unpacking all of these things, it's brutal, and it takes an insane amount of strength. And often it's much easier for the parties to split, kind of try to heal their own wounds. How often do both do that simultaneously? Not often. But to stay together and really work through all of those things and face yourselves and face each other is not easy, especially, again, when you've given up all of the things that you would use to cope through that. And so I always think and kind of marvel at that. And people say, if they're in a relationship and something comes up and it could be catastrophic, and I always think, like, the odds of you guys making it through this and both of you deciding, okay, now's a good time to wake up, unpack everything that got us here, do it while sober, it's really, really low. Like, the odds of that are really low. And so it really speaks highly to the amount of resiliency and strength and kind of the love and friendship that you guys have. Because those years, I knew that if you made it through those years, you would make it, but I've never seen anyone else do that. And I've seen a lot of people give up over a lot less because they don't want to have to, one or both, don't want to have to look in their own mirror. And both somehow know that if they're going in, even because one person has clearly done something wrong, the other one's also going to have to look in the mirror. And almost no one I know is willing to do that, especially when they feel they've been shafted or they've been wronged in a way.
I mean, I do think that the love and respect that Meredith and I have for each other, it's, at this point we've known each other 22 years. And it's deep, it's deep. The respect that we have for each other's journeys and each other's trials and tribulations, it makes it easy to do the work. it's something that I mean, Meredith was what I wanted when I was 16, 17, 18. I felt like if I got Meredith, to settle down with me and have a family with her, that everything else would fall into place and we could make it work. And, that thought went away for 6 years or so, and 20 to 26 or 18 to 24 or something like that, and then it came back. But it is a testament certainly to our relationship, but I think it's a bigger testament to how much we respect each other.
Yeah. Did it ever really leave? I've always been kind of curious about that. So in the space between, so after high school, they went to separate colleges and took some time apart, dated other people. Did it ever really leave? Was she somebody that was always like still in your mind? Or
yeah, for sure.
No offense to the other exes during this time period.
Yeah, you guys were there for a reason as well. But absolutely, there was always, phone calls and text messages and, pictures being sent back and forth and things like that. So no, it never really left. The idea, I always felt like I was going to get her back, and it was always my mission to get her back. And I'm a headstrong person that can get what I want if I put my mind to it, and it happened. And
yeah.
I'm so thankful, and it's such a special part of my life. Meredith is such a special part of my life for so long that, I mean, it makes me smile just thinking about all of that, trying to get her back when I didn't have her. It was like, I put my mind to something, and it's all I wanted to think about, and I was able to make it happen. That's manifest destiny.
Long game.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's a long game.
It really is.
Yeah. And so after 2017, around between 2017 and 2018, I was running a nonprofit that was teaching 6-week self-care classes. And in my first cohort, my first group there, Meredith was in the class. And I'd seen her like off and on, I think, over the previous years, but again, they were in their hibernation, and so I hadn't really connected with her.
It was probably April of 18. Something like that. Beginning of 18, I think, was when Meredith was the holding space that because Meredith did 3 sessions.
Yeah.
Before I did 1. And I know.
Was it 17 or 18?
It was 18 because my real awakening, I was waking up, but my real awakening began.
He was groggy.
Yeah, I was groggy. Began in September of 18.
Yeah.
Was when I took the holding space by storm for the first time. And the reason I remember is because I went on a really cool golf trip that Katie told me, dude, you need to do something for yourself. You're all bogged down by work and you're unhappy, and you go do something for yourself. I was asked to go play golf in South Carolina for a weekend, and at that point it was something that I usually would just say no to immediately. Don't want to deal with it, fuck it, I'll do something else. But Katie said, go, do that. So I did, and I had my first holding space session on a Thursday night, and then took off for South Carolina Friday morning. Played some golf. It was a lot of fun. So I mean, that's how I remember when exactly it was for me. So it was, September of 18 for me that I awoke.
Yeah. She was August of 2017.
Okay, there you go.
Yeah.
Okay.
So you came in about a year later.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so the way I see it, I don't know if this is accurate. Meredith was like, all right, I'm starting this awakening process. I'm going to do some things for myself. She went through 3 rounds of the classes. I'm sure went home, and it was apparent that she was on this path and doing these things. And then a year later, Ari came to the studio, a group full of like 10 strong women, the only guy. And he rolled in with his yoga mat, kind of like, okay, I'm here. And I always love the way that you like talk about that first.
Oh my God, I was so overwhelmed.
And at the time, you guys were totally renovating your house. So you were like, the background to you getting there and then getting there is great. So why don't you tell us a little bit about what was going on? Because I just remember you being like, we don't have a kitchen.
Yeah, so I mean, 2018 in April of 2018, we moved our business that had been in the same location for the last 12 years previous. We moved 12 years of shit in 3 days over to a much nicer complex in Longwood, 5,200 square feet, a bunch of air-conditioned warehouse, yard that we needed for our plumbing outfit. It was huge. It was a great move. I was really feeling the power and feeling myself at that point. So I decided, okay, I got a new office at work. Our first day in the new digs was April 1st, 2018. On April 20th, 2018, we did complete demo of our 1,700 2-bath house in Lake Mary, and essentially started a remodeling process. Myself and a field manager of mine who's total construction stud, we took the project on ourselves, and we used some of our guys to help do a lot of trades. We did complete tear down ourselves, framing, drywall, flooring, all kinds of stuff. And the first 3 months of the process went really well in our hands, and then we turned it over to a turnkey top and cabinet company that just crushed us. They were terrible, and the process was supposed to be over with in October, way over with in October. I put 4 months on this project, and it ended up taking a year. So somebody that's been in the construction trade for, me at this point, 17 years, 18 years, I had been in it for a long time and still had some struggles that, somebody, Suzanne down the road might have if she tried to take on a project like that. So it was a crazy time in our lives for sure. And I was unhappy. We had lost some work. We had a heroin epidemic run through our shop. This kid that I really liked that had fooled me and a couple of my managers. We thought he was a really good dude. We really liked his work ethic. He was selling heroin to some of our employees and a bunch of other people. So we had that occur. We had an employee of ours, the most beloved employee we've ever had at our company, hit his head, fell off an electric skateboard, hit his head and died in another one of our guys' arms. That happened in July of 18. That was July 13th, 18. A week later, we had to put our pit lab down that was 14 years old. So that week in July was just fucking awful. When that week comes around, I still am very super emotional, brought to tears constantly throughout that week, just thinking about how things were at that point. So 2018 was a very successful year for our business and for us personally. Remodeled our house, got a new spot, but it was also a very painful year as well. And my happiness, I was very overwhelmed in general. I had put on a bunch of weight. I was able to get myself in pretty good shape 2017, 2018, and then we didn't have a kitchen for like 6 months. And Uber Eats was hot back then, and it's just like it is now, but it was just coming around, and it came to Lake Mary, and we took advantage of it all the time. And I just felt like bleh. I was worn down, I was unhappy, I was overweight, I just wasn't having any fun.
Yeah.
And there was so much good that had occurred that I just couldn't feel any of it. I could not feel any of it. I couldn't notice any of it. It was just negative.
Yeah. And I love that. I love you pointing that out, because I think often people are always chasing like the next unicorn, right? Thinking it's going to make them feel better. And it's like, if your point of attraction isn't already feeling good, nothing that happens externally is going to be able to do that, or it'll be very fleeting. And so that's how Ari felt walking into his first class.
Yeah, I felt that way. And then I walked into a room with like 10 women that all looked like they belonged. And I felt like, wow, all that, extreme pressure that I had been under all year, that was nothing compared to walking into this little, the yoga shala.
Yeah. And so he came in and he sat down and was really, really honest in why he was there and how he was feeling. And it really gave other people in the group permission to feel the same.
I have to say, real quick, that if Iris had not spoken before me, it would not have gone the way it went. Iris, I love you. Thank you very much. You gave me the platform to speak my mind. You showed me that first night that it was okay, that I was safe, that I was in a place that I could trust. I would open up to Katie all my life, but these other 9 women and Katie, oh my God. But Iris, thank you very much. You gave me the nuts, if you will, to speak my mind.
Yeah, Iris has some balls on her.
Oh my God.
Shout out to Iris. And then you guys formed a nice bond in that class too.
We did.
And I had never met Iris until that class, and she ended up becoming one of my closest friends, has lived with me for a while, and is now part of the collective team. So it was a really special group. And so I'm so glad that she made you feel comfortable enough, because he just opened right up, and it was kind of like this air just sort of opened in the room, and everybody's like, okay, we didn't come to play. Like,
yeah.
And then after that, everybody was like, any story that they had been holding on to that they hadn't even shared with probably some of their closest friends, it was like, nothing is off the table.
It was the realest group. It was, that first group was so fucking real. Everything was just raw. Mm-hmm. It was raw. It was emotional. It was just real shit. It felt so good. I was so, and so glad I was a part of that specific group.
Yeah.
I mean, it was great.
And I loved all the groups. That was definitely, might have been my favorite group, because it was really a really cool dynamic where there was such a lack of judgment in the group.
Yeah.
Everybody showed up to do the work that they came to do. Everyone else supported them in doing that. And whether, you came in and you felt ashamed for eating McDonald's for lunch, or you cheated on your husband, it didn't matter. It was all the same.
Yeah. It
was all just about showing up, becoming comfortable with whatever you had to bring and what you needed to reconcile, and letting everybody else do the same. And it was a really cool dynamic. And I remember when you came into that group, you saying, I don't remember the last time I felt like happy, or I felt like joy in my life, and like I want to remember what that is.
Yeah, that was why I was there, because I had been unhappy for so long, and I had used 2009 was when I started cheating on Meredith, and so I kind of put that in perspective as it's been almost 10 years of being unhappy. So I was not happy with myself. Yeah, I was drinking and drugging at that point, doing whatever I wanted, but I wasn't happy. That wasn't making me happy.
Right.
So I was close to a decade of misery that I couldn't take it anymore.
Yeah.
And there was no excuses in there. I mean, it was all so real and raw. It was like, not everybody made it to every class, but like the next class, somebody would be there that wasn't there the week before, and they'd say, you know what? Like, I was just fucking depressed. I couldn't get off the couch. Mm-hmm. I have no excuse. I wasn't doing anything important. Yeah. I was fucking eating ice cream on the couch. I could not move. For somebody to be able to say that out loud, that's powerful.
Yeah.
People, that shit happens all the time, and people just bottle it down and don't address it and think that they're weird and swear they'll never do it again, which is what I was doing every time I cheated on my wife or did drugs behind her back. That's what I would say to myself. Mm-hmm. Okay, that's over. You're an asshole, but you can make it right by just never doing it again. And that's what most people do when they come to a crossroads.
Yeah. And it's the never do it again. It's like, it has to be substituted with something. And so it's like, if I can find something, a group of people or a thing to do that's going to help me feel better, then that's the outlet. There has to be another outlet, because we have all this energy that we're trying to push or shift or numb or distract from, and it has to have somewhere to go. And over the course of that, so you did 2 rounds of that, so 12 weeks of it. And I think that was really the beginning of your actual awakening. You had done all this foundational work in therapy and kind of went through that and healing and growing and foundation piece, and then did it with your business, and then did it with your home, and then you did it with yourself. And then came out of it a much different version than you started.
Absolutely. I mean, much different. Yoga came into my life at that point. I love hot yoga. The pandemic has kind of crushed that for me, because I still don't
Turn
feel...
the thermostat up.
Yeah, I told Mary the other day I might just have to start doing yoga in the garage in the middle of the day. But, I'm an athlete as a whole growing up, and being a part of a team, feeling the camaraderie of, the people around you, Jim Highland, I miss that guy so much over at Full Circle. I know he does, courses on Zoom, but it's just not the same. For me, it's like I'm the guy that wants to be there, and I'm doing some yoga on my own, and I appreciate it very much. But I miss Jim. Can't wait till life is back to normal and I can feel comfortable to go in there. I know I could go in there tomorrow or today, but I'm not comfortable with that.
Yeah.
Call me crazy, but no thanks. But yeah, yoga and breath work, huge for me. I find myself, breathing deep through things at this point. It's a great technique for me. Meredith really finds meditation to be beneficial for her. My mind just races, so it's more difficult for me unless I'm in a sleepy state. Then it's a little easier for me to be calm. But the breath work is great. So it just brought to light a bunch of different things in my life that I had no idea about, that I've really been able to, find some solace in. And, massage and meditation and yoga and breath work are all things that I've found beneficial when I can quiet the mind and be grounded and present. And that's right now, that's what I'm trying to work on in my life the most, is being present in every situation. Meredith and I are about to be parents for the first time through adoption. Any minute I could get a call like fucking now that we got to go to Gainesville, which would be cool. But I'm really trying to be present in situations and enjoy what I'm doing, not what I'm doing next.
Yeah.
Because Jerry Seinfeld has a Netflix stand-up special right now. It's probably 4 months old at this point, but he opens up with this bit about the human race just trying to, they never enjoy what they're doing. It's always about what's next. You talk about you plan to do something and you make all these arrangements and you do this and you do that and you get there and then you're just wondering, okay, well, when am I going to get up and I got to get a drink. I need to go to the bathroom. What am I going to have to eat? Am I really going to enjoy the show that I'm here for? And the next thing you know, the show's over. And all right, now I got to get down to the parking garage to get in my car. And then I got to get in this huge line of cars to go home. And it's like, you're constantly just thinking about the next thing, never enjoying what you're actually doing.
Yeah.
So right now in my life, I'm trying to stay present with everything I do and fully enjoy it and turn off the outside noise and ground down, because I know that that's what I'm looking forward to so much about being a father figure and a husband figure as well, is being present with my family, being accountable, being there when they need me, and I can't be doing that if my mind is in 25 different places. So
right.
Staying present and grounded right now is the work that I am on.
Yeah. And so that's like, we can fast forward 2 years later from the start of that journey, and now you're sitting here with me, 40 pounds lighter, probably?
Yeah,
right?
That's the exact. I was 190 then, and I'm 150 now.
Yeah. So he's sitting here, and we'll put up a picture in our podcast episode. 40 pounds lighter, haircut on point. He's wearing a crystal necklace. He's living that life and embodying it. And his talk about, his goals, being grounded and present. Here's the breath work and the yoga I like to use. 2 years ago, all of that would have been non-existent.
Yeah. I mean, I couldn't even speak those words.
Right.
I literally, if I had known yoga and massage when I'm 20, when my baseball career ended, it probably wouldn't have ended. Mm-hmm. It's amazing what the body can endure, especially if it's conditioned properly. Mm-hmm. And yoga and the massage would have saved my career for sure. But 3 years ago, I couldn't tell you anything about any of that. I didn't want any man touching me or any woman that wasn't my wife. God, I might, freak out and want to have sex with her or some shit. It's just shit that I didn't want to deal with. I didn't trust myself.
Yeah.
So it's like I didn't want anything to do with any of that.
So, and I like that part of it. So it all comes back to, even when we've wronged somebody else, it's really about the trust that we've broken in ourselves, right? And the less trust we have in ourselves, the quieter that intuitive voice gets, until sometimes we lose it altogether. And so the journey back to trusting ourselves is really a huge part of what awakening is about. It's reconnecting our mind, body, and our spirit. We have to be able to trust those things to start taking steps in that direction. So for you, how did that, if you're aware of it, how did that journey of trust with yourself progress? Because you did the foundational work, you were in the classes, started your own awakening process, and for what I observed, it seemed like you just became like consistently more and more open to just trying something and seeing how it felt and seeing how you showed up. And then doing it again if it worked, or trying something else.
I mean, I literally can go back to walking into holding space the first time.
Yeah.
I felt so vulnerable. I had not felt so vulnerable since I sat on my couch in 2014 and confessed all my wrongdoings to Mare. Mm-hmm. I felt so vulnerable at that point that was the point. Until holding space, I didn't trust myself fully until then, which is, like, hey, you want to go on this golf trip? Fuck no.
Yeah.
It would have been life is fuck yes and fuck no's, and that was a fuck no for sure.
Mm-hmm.
But because I didn't trust myself.
Right.
And I still, until I had the first holding space session with you, or I think it was actually maybe the beginning of that week before the first session that I decided I was going to do this. But I mean, but that was perfect example of I didn't trust myself to go do that.
Right.
And it wasn't until I felt comfortable with these 9 other women that I didn't know at all that I really started to be able to trust myself. And maybe that was part of it too, was here's 9 women that I've never met before, some attractive, some unattractive. All of us have the same common goal and a problem that we're working on. Mm-hmm. It was so comforting, and my vulnerability level felt minuscule at that point. When I walked into the second session, or when I walked out of the first session, I had so much confidence.
Yeah.
And I'm a confident person. When my confidence is high, people can tell. Yeah. And literally it was holding space that let me understood that I could trust myself, and it was affirmation work. I am worthy. I am accountable. Those two things, right? That I am worthy is the one that we were talking about this yesterday, that resonates with me the most and will forever. It really grounds me and lets me know, dude, you're all right, man. Yeah. It's okay. You did what you did, and you've made it right, and you can move on confidently and with the swag that I walk around with, that I always have, because that's me. That's when I'm at my best. That's what that's what people love about me.
Yeah. And so it was really about you being able to be fully vulnerable in a way, especially with other people, that allowed you to meet yourself where you were as who you were at that point, and then gave you the confidence to try one more thing. And have it go right.
Right. Have the confidence that you can go do this, and there's nothing bad that's going to come from this.
Right. You're safe with yourself now.
Correct.
Try one thing. I love that. And so that, I think, goes a long way. I think for a lot of people's journeys, when we break trust within ourselves, it's really about doing the foundational work, then showing up with a ton of openness and vulnerability. And then from there, you see that you're safe, and then trying the next thing. And it's only in putting ourselves or having situations arise that we might not even desire that we get to meet parts of ourselves as new and be pleasantly surprised that all of the work and all of the time we put in really does work, but it's not really going to come to fruition, or we're not going to see it clearly until we put ourselves in that new position or that new situation.
It's as easy as trying something different. I mean, you can get in a complacent rut in life and not put yourself out there, not make yourself vulnerable to anything, and you can be successful, or you can be bored as shit, or
both.
Yeah, but it's trying something new. It's actively trying, and in my mind, I always said, you're trying to break a chain of misery, of family misery, of alcohol, misery. So it's, and it's fitting for the time we're in now. Be the change. That's resonated with me since about the middle of last year. Our slogan at work since 2014 has been whatever it takes. Well, that's cool, but about 6 months ago, I decided, okay, let's flip the script to be the change. Didn't make it fucking happen on anything, but that's where my mind has been.
Yeah.
And then the pandemic hits, and other things become more important. But that's what it's about. It's about actively trying to change yourself. If you're not actively trying to do it, it's not going to happen. Nobody's going to do it for you. There's no position that you're going to put yourself in that, makes you change. It's you. You're the only one. You're the driver of your own...
Your life.
Yeah.
Your reality.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think that's super, super important. It's something... I had a class last night that I talked about, and we could talk all day and be in classes all day or listen to podcasts all day or even go to therapy all day and talk it through and have an understanding. But it's not until you take a conscious action step of showing up in a new way or going to a new class or putting yourself in a situation that it's really going to come together. Like you said, you have to take action. You have to actively do something different. That's the key to making it all meld together. Otherwise, you can stay stuck, and you might be stuck with a greater understanding of how you got stuck, but you're still stuck.
Yeah.
And it's the action that allows your mind to say, okay, I believe now. We're actually on board with this because we're acting in alignment with what we now believe and what we profess to believe. And that's the biggest part. And that's what you did. And it's really cool to see now, too, you watching yourself experience new situations and being pleasantly surprised at how you show up.
Yeah.
And that's the coolest part. We're always meeting different parts of ourselves. And when we're doing the inner work, the parts of ourselves we start meeting are really fucking cool.
Yeah.
And you're like, okay, man, I can get on board with that guy. Like that,
When you can physically notice change and better responses to situations, it's really exciting. I mean, it's fulfilling as shit to sit. And I'm a person that likes to do things and sit back and look at them and go, I'm really proud of that. And it is really satisfying to be able to be put in a situation where you can react appropriately and feel so proud of that reaction. But it takes getting comfortable with uncomfortable situations. Mm-hmm. I mean, and that's opening yourself up, being vulnerable, being comfortable in your skin, redefining what it is to be comfortable in my skin. It's not the same as it was 10 years ago or 20 years ago or 30 years ago. It's completely different. It's going to change all the time.
Yeah.
But if you can actively change with it and feel those feels and be comfortable with that uncomfortable shit, then that is fucking doing work. Mm-hmm. That is when you feel uncomfortable and you grind through it, that's progress.
Mm-hmm. Staying steadfast through the feelings of discomfort. It protects you in a way, from getting like torn apart by whatever's coming at you. Just that energy is there's no area for it to come into, and it's been a really, really interesting journey that he's had, and I think it's all culminating with the arrival of their daughter within 2 weeks or less. She's going to be born, and so it's really interesting to me how I think, and I'll let you answer this too, but in watching Ari and his journey, it's clear to me that he's about to enter into a totally new phase of his life, and everything that came before it was preparing him for this. And he did the work, and all of the things that happened exactly the way they were supposed to catalyze him into his own awakening and building this foundation and walking through these fires so that he's able to raise a child in this world in a very soulful, mindful way and be aware of things that he 10 years ago would never have been aware of. And so it's going to allow him to step into his purpose, and his purpose is going to be about being a father, which he was born to do. And I don't think you could have done it the way that you're about to do it had none of this happened, or had it just been kind of wavering.
No.
You were born to be a certain kind of father, and you're like literally days away from stepping into this new version of you as a whole complete man and father, and standing in that power, and knowing that whatever happened in your past served its role and fueled you to get to where you're going, and there's no longer any need for punishment or shame or guilt, because it built you to be where you're at so that you can give these gifts to your daughter.
Yeah, as tough as it's been to get right here to sit on this comfortable pillow and this fluffy rug that feels like a couch, I wouldn't change any of it, because it's my journey, it's my story, it's me. Yeah. And I've always been a prideful person, and I am super proud at this point. I've never been more proud of myself than I am at this point with the work that I've been able to put in, the man that I am, the son, the husband, the boss. I'm super proud of myself and the work that I've put in, and it's been the best work I've ever done. I have lots to be proud of in my professional life, but the personal work that I've done, all the professional accolades and the things that I've accomplished, they're not there if I don't do this personal work. Mm-hmm. So, that success revolves around my success and my own health and my mental health. And it's something that you can't take for granted. You have to understand that, you're going to struggle. Not everything's going to be easy. Nothing in this life that's worth having is easily obtained. So it's going to be work if it's worth it.
Yeah.
You got to be willing to put it in. It's not easy, but it'll get you where you need to go.
Yeah. And it'll get you to an easier place eventually.
Yeah.
When you get used to it.
Agreed.
Awesome.
Agreed.
Yeah. It's a good story.
Yeah.
It is.
It's a fucking story, that's for sure.
It is.
And I mean, it could have been 10 days longer, but there's lots to it. But I'm so happy to be here and so happy to have Katie in the Collective Co. in my life and soon to be in our daughter's life. And I mean, it's just super special to know that, during this trying, unprecedented time in our country's history, we're bringing a mixed race baby as well into this trying time. Can't be more proud of that and the responsibility that we have to teach Issa about her heritage and all of the troubles and trials and tribulations of the African American. So, huge responsibility that we are taking, super seriously, and we are so proud, so thankful, grateful to be able to mold a mind and have resources around us that can help us when we need help. Life's about who you know, not what you know.
Yeah. And she's incredibly lucky too to have two parents that are aware and are doing that work and are coming from a heart-centered, mindful place. And it's going to be really, really cool to watch that journey unfold. And we're definitely going to check back in because we want to hear about it.
Yeah, a couple of weeks ago, and you mentioned it a little while ago, you've never seen a couple go through what Meredith and I have and come out the other end like we have. And a couple of weeks ago, you told me you don't know of any couple that's ever done any work like we're trying to do leading up to having a child. So,
oh my God.
I mean, that makes me feel super smiley and silly and happy, because Meredith and I value, your opinion and your presence in our lives so much that's like a super special fucking thing to hear from you. So so stoked, but it's like a little added pressure now.
Well, to put it in perspective too, so we've been working for the past few weeks on creating their family narrative and cementing it and supporting it with subconscious beliefs and using Psych-K, redesigning what it means to be a mother and to be a father and really uniting them in that so they're ready to bring the soul into their family. It's been really interesting and it's true. I've never ever worked with anybody or watched anybody do that preemptively. What does parenting mean to us? What does family mean to us? These are our anchoring beliefs. This is our mission statement. This is what fatherhood means. This is what motherhood means. And we're going to support it mentally, emotionally, physically, and spiritually. And I was teaching a class to sleep consultants this past week, and one of them has 6-year-old twins. And she said, something you told me in a class a few weeks ago about, this child isn't just half me and half my husband. It's its own soul. They have their own souls, and I'm here to guide them, not try to make them in who I want them to be. And she was like, if my parents had known this and had been able to do that as a child, she's like, my entire life would be different. And she's like, and if I had known this, she's like, people need to know this before their babies come. And I was like swelling inside because I'm like, yes, they do. Yeah. And it's the most incredible gift because we get what we focus on, we get what we expect. And if we're not mindfully creating those structures to live within, our subconscious just pulls from old conditioning and old experiences we've had. And often we end up becoming what we don't want to be. And so mindfully laying down a platform of what life is going to be like, what parenting is going to be like, plants anchors so that you can always come back to that. And I've never watched anyone ever do that preemptively. And so it's really badass. It's super moving. It's been like an incredible experience to be able to facilitate that. And other people who are catching onto that train a little bit later are like, if only I had known. So you talked about, if only I had known about, you know, massage and yoga when I was 20. Well, like, you're knowing about this stuff now before the baby comes puts you, I mean, like, that's the ultimate gift for everybody involved. And it's really fucking cool.
I agree. And, you know, super thankful to have the opportunity. I mean, it's like such a special opportunity. And I mean, I hope I can reach other men that have issues, that think that, you know, there's nobody out there that they can talk to, or nothing's going to make it make sense, or they have to do it all on their own, or, you know, whatever the thought might be. I really hope that, you know, if
perhaps we have a podcast where people ask questions to you.
yeah. I gotta have, you know, my brothers out there know that this shit is fucking real, and it's cool as shit, and it's something to be super proud of, and it'll separate you from everybody else in your life is struggling. It'll give you an understanding of what it means to progress, you know, in a healthy nature, and have those around you, you know, be proud and thankful and happy, you know, of the work you're doing, and in turn the person that you can be for them. So, I mean,
yeah, I think that you're a great person to speak about it too. So we'll be investigating that further, because I think I've always, since he came to Holding Space and I watched how he evolved that way, I always was like, oh my God, like, I want Ari on this team, and I want him being able to mentor and help men, because it's so important. And I'll just throw this statement out there. Don't get pissed off, ladies. But like, men, I tend to find to be a little bit like more pliable to work with, because a lot of this stuff is so new to them, and they're just like, and they're just really open to it because they haven't had a lot of experience with it, or they're almost like have like a more like naive nature about when it comes to the wellness part of it.
Right.
And I find them to be, especially if they've been athletes, they know how to be coached. And knowing how to be coached is a huge part of being able to engage in the process. So you're not meeting it with defensiveness. If you've been coached well in your life, even on a sports team or whatever, you know how to take being coached.
Yeah. And
that's half of it. It opens you up and allows you to take it in a much quicker way, where it's like, oh, this person's an expert in this area. They know how to help me. That's what I'm here for. I'm going to do it.
Right. And
then they just do it. So like, a lot of men that I work with do their homework really well because they've been coached before.
Right.
You know, it's not as personal, and not in a non-personal way, but they're more open to that.
And there's not a whole lot of men out there in general that are going to tell you that they're where they need to be in a spiritual, mental, you know, facility.
Yeah.
Maybe in a physical nature. You know, there's lots of guys out there that are physical and they're about that. But, I mean, if you're talking about, like, spirituality, you know.
And their emotional body.
I know a lot of religious men. I don't know a lot of spiritual men.
Yeah.
You know,
there's a huge difference.
I had a guy that, you know, wanted to do some prayer with me, and he asked me if I believed in God. And I said, I'm spiritual, I'm not religious. Yep. And he completely understood what I meant. But there's a lot of men out there that are religious, but I haven't heard a whole lot of spiritual men.
Right.
You know, and I spoke of him earlier, Jim Highland. He was a guy in a yoga instructor at Full Circle that really, he makes me feel so comfortable, and there's never been a man in my life like Jim. Mm-hmm. And it's like super fucking special the way that I feel about this guy and his energy. And I mean, I feel so great in his presence that, you know, I want to be around him again, but it's like, we need more men like that. You know, those are the kind of men that need to.
Yeah. And like you said, be the change. Yeah. And so once you go through it, you know, part of the whole journey of awakening is coming to that final stage of it. And we go through hibernation and other transformations, but when we're hanging out at those higher level stages, it's about figuring out how to help other people and serve them with the information that you've acquired, you know. And you're a natural coach too. So I definitely,
I'm on this earth to lead and to be a father and to be a mentor and a coach. And
yeah,
I mean, I could definitely see myself as a part of the team.
Hey!
And I mean, I can't say that I'm extremely happy with my career choice at this point, and every day I feel like I'm getting further and further away from the passion that I've had in the plumbing industry. But I know there's more to life. I'm not here to be a general manager at a plumbing outfit. It's not what I'm here to do. It's what I'm doing. It's what's putting the food on the table, but that's not why I'm here.
Yeah, and so a cool flip to that one would be every day I feel myself getting pulled closer and closer to where like my heart's
where I'm supposed to be. Yeah. Yep.
And I think that's amazing.
Yeah, I do too. And it's really exciting and encouraging to think about, the possibility of helping people, because there's nothing more to be proud of than helping people achieve something that they might not otherwise have a chance to.
Mm-hmm. You heard it here first, guys. Got a whole series of man help coming your way.
Real men shit.
Real man shit.
Right here.
They shit on our floor.
Off the cuff.
Yeah, real man shit.
Yep, that's what it's about. This is real men practice self-care.
Boom. That's a wrap. That's where we're gonna end that. I'm Katie Kovaleski, and you've been listening to the SASS podcast, where science meets spirituality with a sassy twist. You can follow the SASS podcast through Instagram, Facebook, and our website using the links in the show notes. If you haven't yet, go to Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or YouTube and subscribe. If you enjoyed today's episode, please leave a review. If you would like to continue this conversation, visit our blog to join in on the deep dive for this episode where we explore this topic in more detail. Join me next week for another sassy conversation.